Okay, Maria, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for the slight delay. Welcome to Community Board 1, Tuesday, March 15, 2022. And it is my honor to introduce our Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. Take the mic.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. If it seems a little hectic around here, I am calling you from the House floor. We're currently voting on some important pieces of legislation, but I wanted to, be able to pop in, say hello, give you all some updates. Last week was a very important and really wonderful week for our community. We were able, after over a year of working and trying and fighting, we're able to finally pass and secure many community projects for our district and our community. So I figured I'd give you all some quick updates, be able to run through those, and then if anyone has any questions, be able to field whatever I can. So in terms of community project funding, I'll cut straight to the chase. We secured $3 million for Elmhurst Hospital, particularly our OBGYN unit, which was so heavily impacted at the onset of the pandemic. I don't know if anyone's been to Elmhurst over the last year or two, but it was still had so many scars from those very early difficult days. They had to throw up sheetrock. It was unpainted. It just wasn't deserving of, it wasn't what our community deserved. And so we were able to secure $3 million for an all new OBGYN unit so that mothers can also have private time, their private rooms that we'll be able to build out there, as well as just a lot of other upgrades to the OBGYN facility in the hospital. We have also secured $2 million for our local housing organization, Chaya CDC, and they're going to be helping a lot of folks in our community with housing and counseling in order to access housing resources. And they'll also be expanding the languages in which that housing counseling will be available. So we're very excited. The $2 million is going to essentially be able to help them secure a permanent home in the community. We've got $275,000 for Sunnyside Community Services to train home health aides in the community, and also to provide after-school enrichment programs for at-risk youth in Woodside. We've got $260,000 to restore our waterfront piers at College Point, and another about $250,000 for the Queens Community House to hire counselors at our alternative high schools and help our students meet graduation requirements. We also got another $100,000 for Plaza del Sol. We also got another $100,000 for our local community health center, Plaza del Sol, to expand telehealth services, and also $60,000 for our Emerald Isle Immigration Center so that they can also hire some job counselors for the community. We also have the omnibus bill that was passed, which includes Ukraine aid, and also continuing funding for agencies like the VA and the Department of Education. And we also, since we've last spoken, there's new district lines. So in terms of the Queens half of the district, we're losing some parts of Sunnyside. We're picking up the rest of Astoria, and we will also be picking up Whitestone and some areas of Malva as well as part of our new upcoming congressional district, which will be in effect. It will be in effect next year, but for electoral purposes, when you are voting this year, you're going to be voting for your new district, in your new district, but those districts will formally be enacted when the new Congress and when our new assembly and whatnot will be sworn in next January. So there's a whole lot of other things to cover, but I'll leave some room for you all in case there are any questions. I'd be more than happy to address.
Thank you. Do any board members have a question for the Congresswoman? Can you please use the raise hand function?
Madam Chair, seeing one, Diane Lamoji.
Diane Lamoji, and then Kathleen Warnock. Diana?
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to say thank you for supporting home care workers. They're among the lowest paid. And I also wanted to just remind you about childcare workers and about childcare. I'm doing a lot of advocacy this week in New York State at the New York State level, but we are hoping that childcare investment will happen on the federal level because I don't need to tell you, but moms and dads, no one can go to work if we can't leave our kids in a safe, quality center that's located in our own neighborhoods that supports, our culturally responsive and, the needs of our families. And that cultural piece, I think, is really important in our district. So I just wanted to remind you that, we're advocates are working really hard. Not only am I a mom who lost childcare in our district, our center closed because of COVID, but this is also my life work. So you're here. So I just needed to lift that up.
No, thank you. That is absolutely one of our priorities, and actually reminded me, all of these projects that I kind of just announced and kind of talked about the funding, things like that. We started them last year. They just got passed last week. So what that actually means is that we're going to be starting our next round right away. And so, thanks again for reminding me, because that's a really important piece too. If you or if anyone on the board, anyone that's just watching right now, if you're connected to an organization, whether it's kind of like what we have with, Sunnyside or Queens Community House, if there are any other organizations or initiatives that the board feels should be flagged for potential funding on a federal level, let us know. Najee is here on the call. She can collect any of that information. And we're going to be actively looking for new community projects to fund for this coming year. So that cycle is going to start up really, really soon. And we want to make sure everyone can be as prepared as possible for it. So childcare is an excellent source for that, or it's an excellent place, as you mentioned, that we need investment for, but that goes for any other areas of the community as well. So thanks for raising the point.
Thank you. Important. And also after school is really important. I know we talk about childcare, we forget that after school is needed for the school age kids, after 5 during kindergarten, all the way to 5th and 6th grade. Those kids also need, a place to go after school's ending and parents are still at work. So that as well.
Definitely. We've got some after school here, but we can always fund more. So we're more than happy to accept any proposals.
Thank you. Kathleen Warnock?
Hi. There's been so much change because of elections and all that in city and state. It's going to have an impact on what you're doing with some of the federal funds. I'm particularly interested in two things. One is whatever the heck is going on with the air train, which now almost seems to be back to square one, where you come down on that and where you think the funding could best be used. And secondly, the new governor has proposed reviving an old dormant rail line to connect Queens and Brooklyn, which actually sounds like it could be a pretty good idea. And have you examined that, and what's your take on that?
Yes, so we've come out in support for the new rail line. And in fact, we've actually advocated for it to not just connect Brooklyn and Queens, but our congressional district also extends into the Bronx. So we've actually advocated not just in support of a lot of that line, but also to have the governor consider extending it to the Bronx. As someone who has to commute between the Bronx and Queens a lot, we've got a handful of buses that can do the job, but even from the Bronx, a lot of those go to Flushing. And I believe that increasing that connectivity between our boroughs without having to go through Manhattan also represents a huge economic opportunity for all of us. So I'm very supportive of the line. With respect to the air train, we had a lot of issues with the existing proposal. And so I had actually flagged I had flagged it for secondary review from the Department of Transportation and Secretary Buttigieg that conducted that secondary review. They found that there were some issues with it. We also, Community Board 2 also flagged a lot of issues with homeowners in the area. But I am very supportive of us finding alternatives. In fact, there were about 10 other viable alternatives, whether it was busways, whether it was extending the N line over. I think it's really important for us to expand public transit to LaGuardia, but the air train, having it go all the way out and all the way back in wasn't going to accomplish our goal of reducing traffic in the area.
Oh, I agree.
And so we're currently supporting and we're asking for those alternatives. But I agree, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, but we can get more information and get you some more details for next month as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. We need more information on that for sure, because I see there are about 12 different access points being discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Doreen Mohammed.
Hi, Congresswoman. I was recently redistricted into your district, so very exciting. I wanted to ask kind of like about, we have a really big housing crisis in New York City, as I'm sure you're very familiar with. And, there's a lot of problematic developer projects that don't actually meet the housing needs of the community, particularly for working poor, working class New Yorkers, especially for people of color, but not limited to immigrants, et cetera. What are your thoughts or policies or initiatives your office is working on in tandem with also local officials like, our Assembly members Oran and Tiffany Caban, our council member, and Julie Wan as well? I'd like to hear anything you can walk us through.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I'm sorry if you hear a little bit, but as I mentioned, they call the votes. There's a lot of members walking around this way. So I'm glad you asked the question like right in time, because we're actually developing social housing policy, a bill rather, that we're hoping to drop in the coming months, because one of the issues that we're having is, as a city, we have two concurrent issues. Is that I do think that when we actually look at our housing supply, we don't have enough. We do have a housing supply issue, but we're not going to solve that by developing a lot more just like free market rate apartments. And so what we're trying to do is that we're looking into examining a proposal to develop and support public entities that can acquire currently distressed housing. And so instead of having currently distressed housing being auctioned off to these private equity groups, we recently had a hearing this past week. These huge, massive Wall Street companies are now gobbling up about 1 in every 7 homes in the United States. And so if you're just trying to start out, it's really, really hard. I mean, I'm sure everyone has a friend or someone that they know that's trying to just buy their own home, and it's insane. I mean, we've had housing prices go up 8% since January. And so, we need to address the issue of both having enough housing stock, but also not letting it just go to the highest bidder the way that it has been. So we are examining and developing a proposal to develop a public entity to acquire acquire distressed assets that are currently there, and then have that handed over to essentially local land trusts, nonprofits, et cetera, that will be able to either rent them out or sell them at reasonable prices. There's also a couple of other things that we can do, but we're more than happy to connect with any housing organizations. We currently have been looped in with some, but we're happy to kind of preview what we're looking at legislatively with some more of our local grassroots organizations. So there's kind of, this is something that I've looked at in the past, because I used to not buy this argument that we don't have enough housing, because if you actually look at the raw numbers, that that's true. There's like more homes than there are people that are experiencing homelessness. But the problem that we have is density and geography. So where some of those open area, like where some of that stock is in places where people don't really necessarily want to move to. And so we have to address that. But also last term, I believe Congresswoman Maloney passed in the House a bill to not allow anonymous buyers behind LLCs, and that they actually have to register ownership. And I think that that can also help us put a dent in some of these issues as well. But we're always more than happy to explore additional measures that we can carry and introduce as well.
So thank you for that. And as a follow-up, Evie and I are on the housing committee, and I'm sure we'd love to connect with you in your office to help facilitate that legislation. But on the question of like the housing density question, because I'm also working for the city council, and I see that there's like 20% vacancy rate in Manhattan. So like, I'm a little skeptical of there aren't actual units. And we also know these real estate folks, like there's no regulations, and like there really needs to be that kind of federal leadership. Also in conjunction with how rent prices have been spiking across New York City and the United States. So if you can kind of explain, like how that piece fits in, like the social housing, publicly owned housing is great, but I feel like there's more tenants to it that have to be addressed.
No, I'd be more than happy to engage you all. And for us, I'm in complete agreement that these vacant apartments that people are basically sitting on, and I'm just going to call it money laundering. If it's not, they may be able to legally be above board with some of it. But a lot of these are foreign entities that are just trying to hide their money. And so they're parking on our housing stock because in New York, it's so valuable. I agree with a lot of that. And we do need to be able to return a lot of that and figure out whether it's through our tax laws, whether it's tax laws, zoning, who's allowed, etc. And also prioritizing our laws to prioritize people who are trying to purchase a home to live in versus as just a pure investment vehicle. Because what's happening right now, if you go to buy a house, a family has to bid against Blackstone in order to purchase a home. So there's absolutely that element to it. Some of the estimates that we've seen, however, is that in order for housing, like our current housing need in the city is an additional 700,000 units. And so even if you take a lot of those secondary areas, we don't think that it would meet that necessary inventory need. So, but we're more than happy to sit down with you all, walk you through some of what we've seen. And if there are any things that we've overlooked, we'd be more than happy to incorporate that.
All right, that sounds good. I just want to showcase Diana and Evie's comments in the chat about this. That Diana was saying people are being pushed out of Astoria in droves. They can't afford to buy in Astoria, so they're being forced to move out of the area and mostly out of the 5 boroughs, which that's something I personally have seen and can attest to. And Evie highlighting that there's a lot of illegal Airbnbs that remain, and also some rent stabilized apartments are being left vacant, so landlords can convert to co-ops. So there definitely is like a multi-tiered approach that we need to take.
Yeah.
And yes, if you can let us know what's the best way to connect with you so we can really get this going and help mobilize the community board and beyond, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say just connecting with Najee, and Najee will loop you in with our legislative team. And yeah, I mean, I'm in complete agreement. I'm in this boat myself. I'm a renter. I'm actually, this might be too TMI, but I'm letting you all know. I was because we were waiting on redistricting, I'm still in a month-to-month lease. And then thinking about trying to find a place to rent in the district, it's out of control. And I mean, I'm a member of Congress for this district, and I don't even know if I'll be able to I don't even know how realistic it is for me to even purchase the home in the district that I'm elected to represent. And so, the situation is just so out of control. And one of the things that we need to really focus on is rewriting our rules so that the people who are actually trying to buy a home to live in come first. and don't have to compete against these massive private equity groups or investors, et cetera. I mean, it's really just really gotten to the point of complete lack of affordability. Now, there are going to be things that we're going to have to do on the federal level. There's going to be things we're going to have to do on the state level. The good cause eviction bill is up there as well. But there's also going to be a lot that we're going to have to do as a city as well. Like, you know, the city of Toronto has implemented vacancy taxes, because this is not just something for residents, but small businesses as well. A lot of small businesses are getting run out because landlords are just trying to hike it up super high. And after the last 2 years we've had with the pandemic, that's not something that we should have to be worrying about right now.
Thank you. Last question goes to Dominic Stiller.
Hi, Representative. Nice to talk to you. I just put my question in the chat. You were very helpful a few years ago when I asked you to put a word in to keep the First Avenue and Second Avenue bike lanes open during the UN week, and somehow it worked, even though you said you had nothing to do with it. So I think it did. I'm a strong proponent of this recent awareness of eliminating, I don't want to call it eliminating, I want to say converting single family zones to optional 2-family houses. I've done the math with some of the representatives from DOB. This would bring 90,000 new potential apartments to not the big developers you just mentioned, not the Blackstones, but to homeowners. They would be able to take a big house if they wanted to and put a second apartment. I know that there's these experiments in East New York called basement apartments. I strongly think that's not a positive. I think that's a negative, because it limits it to this, you know, dank basement apartment. I think there's no reason houses shouldn't be first and second floor, or however it works architecturally. What do you think about that? And what can we do in New York State to bring these 90,000 units to where we need them? Thank you.
Yes. An excellent question. I mean, I think eliminating single family zoning is really, really huge and very important to making sure that we can have more housing stock. And like you said, keeping it in the hands of everyday people. We've been supportive of that. You know, single family zoning, single family zoning tends to be a more local issue, but one of the things that we've been doing is supporting our colleagues on the city and state level who are supportive of transferring that. And also, you know, the big thing with this is on city council, there has historically been a council rule of deference. And so if a community doesn't want to add any more housing, that council member will vote against the rezoning. But then this whole tradition of deference means the rest of the council will vote the way that one member would vote. But it's contributing to a constriction of our housing stock. And it makes a lot of this stuff really, really tough. So I'm very supportive. And we've also been able to start putting in language on the federal level. We can't mandate anything, but we can advance language that is supportive of it so that people can kind of, you know, take a hint from what the sense of Congress is on certain issues with this. Like you said, it could dramatically increase the housing stock. You know, there's just some communities in Long Island that just built 149 new affordable units after 40 years of people trying to make that happen. And so we shouldn't have to wait 40 years to add to our housing stock. The other thing that I see Doreen mentioned in the chat is the issues with AMIs, which is a huge issue for people who don't know. Area median income, which is what determines affordable housing. You know, when we see these affordable housing developments go up, and then you see kind of the ads on the subway, and it's like, yeah, if you make $150,000, you qualify for affordable housing. Well, how does that happen? It's pegged to what is called the area median income. And in New York City, that radius for what your median income is goes all the way out to Westchester. So what is determined as the median income is also, it's almost like an average that is affected because of it includes neighborhoods with really high income people, even though you're actually trying to determine what's affordable for Queens. And so I believe Congresswoman Yvette Clarke has introduced some legislation surrounding AMIs. I can check in with her to see what that's looking like. But that is another issue that I just saw Doreen put in there. I wanted to speak to it as well. Yeah.
I just follow up to respond to you. And that is, in the housing committee, which I'm also on, we see these drabs come in and you see a unit being built, planned for years, and seven affordable apartments. 13. And, it's such a drop in the bucket compared to some of these other, changes that we're talking about. So, so it's great. You're right. We have to lower that, but that'll just bring, a few hundred over years. These other changes I mentioned earlier would be a sea change. They'd all be affordable, so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's one of the reasons why we've been leading on the zoning issue, because if you can change the zone, then you dramatically change what's possible. And also, yes, we can address what's happening in Manhattan, but we should also have communities that aren't reliant on Manhattan or reliant on economic activity in Manhattan in order to thrive. And as we've seen some of this success in Astoria and in other areas where communities are able to develop and be self-reliant economically in their own right, and we need to be able to have housing to accommodate that too.
Thank you. Okay, absolutely. Final question now, Evie. I called the last question, but last one, okay?
Okay. Hi, Congresswoman. I am now your constituent because of redistricting, so I'm happy to have you as my representative. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about development, and I know I don't want to, beat a dead horse, so to speak, but I mean, we have it here in Community Board 1, every rezoning has passed, and since MIH was actually implemented, not one affordable unit has actually been built as part of that. So every project, it's about the speculation. And so, I just want to kind of address the fact that nothing has been preventing these developers from building the housing in terms of zoning. They've gotten all the zoning changes that they want, even sometimes when the community board has voted against it, it's been passed in the city council. So, I think we can't ignore the fact that real estate speculation plays a big role. And we haven't seen any MIH units being built as a result of the zoning change that happened here, at least in Community Board 1. I agree with Dom about ADUs. I think they're a great way to increase the supply of housing. I think some basement legalization is actually not bad. He thinks it's totally bad. We disagree there, but it's okay, Dom. But I guess I'm also part of the Western Queens Community Land Trust. And, how does that fit into your, your plan and really in terms of funding, right? Because you need to acquire property. And so for us as grassroots groups, it's very, very difficult. And I'm just wondering whether actually funding for that is part of the plan, not just kind of, buying up distressed properties, but even other properties as well that, might be developed for luxury housing, instead, trying to find ways to build actually affordable housing. Thank you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for making the point. And when we talk about zoning, it's not just about being supportive of all rezonings, as just like a blanket principle, but it's about really taking a look at where it's appropriate. And this is why one of the reasons why we kind of had zoomed in a little bit on single family homing specifically. But I agree, because you can change the zoning, you can add thousands of apartments to the stock if it's all in the hands of a few, and if it is with the intent of speculation, we're not going to get the result that we need. So while I do think that some rezoning is going to be important to add to the stock, it's add to what stock? And if we're not adding to our affordable housing, then that's a failure. We have to be able to do that. That's going to require stitching together city and also the work that you all do here on the community board, everything from the community board to the city to the state and the federal level. When it comes to the land trust, it's really exciting work, and so we'll pass along to you, as we had mentioned, what we're previewing in terms of a bill. But as I had mentioned earlier, when we talk about social housing and having basically public dollars reacquire distressed housing, then exclusively hand that inventory off to land trusts, and land trusts are explicitly named as one of the eligible entities. That's one of the ways that we can keep our housing stock in the hands of communities without it just getting auctioned off to whatever, anonymous LLC is trying to buy it all cash, like way above asking. And so we'll pass along, I'm happy to pass along some of the proposals that we have. We can pass it along to the entire board if they'd like to take a look, and more than happy to receive feedback on that. As we know, housing is an extremely multifaceted issue. And so any one solution is by definition going to be too narrow, but we just want to take as many bites out of this apple as we can, and in an order that is that's not going to allow the big moneyed interest to get ahead, which is why, for example, when we looked at one of the first things that we wanted to do, it wasn't going to be a federal focus on just blanket encouragement of rezoning, but the thing that we want to build first is social housing proposals, so that once that inventory is there, we'll be able to hand it off to stewards of the community that can continue to keep it affordable. So and as I mentioned, that includes land trusts, cooperatives, nonprofit affordable housing, etc. So we'll definitely hand whatever we've got. We'll hand it off to you all, and we're more than happy to receive any input before we drop the bill.
Thank you. And thank you, Congresswoman, for being here and taking the time, and for all the wonderful work you're doing in Washington on behalf of your constituents.
May I say something, please, George Alexiou?
Very fast, George. A Congresswoman will be leaving. Very short. Go ahead, George.
Yes.
You didn't raise your
Okay.
hand.
Yeah. We have a problem over here in Queens, Jackson Heights, and actually all around Queens. There are about 100,000 homes, what we call a two-family house, with a walk-in apartments. These apartments in reality are all illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Why we don't make legal in order to change something like with the zoning, whatever we call it? I'm screaming for years. I'm a president of the Greek American Homeowner Association, and people, in order to convert to make a legal three-family house, they have to spend $60,000, $70,000, $100,000. So, and all these years I am talking, I'm this and so on. Nobody listen. I talk to many politicians. They come to from one ear to the other. So, do you have any answer on that, please?
Yes, thank you. Well, so, as was mentioned earlier, people may have different opinions on basement dwellings. I personally am supportive of them. I know there may be some disagreement. Happy to engage in debate about it. I believe that we should convert them into legal apartments. The reason that they currently cost so much is because, as we saw with the tragedies in our community last September with Hurricane Ida, there need to be a lot of investments and security on safety because people can get flooded, and we had 12 members of our community passed away during the storm, and almost all of them were basement dwellings. And so if we want to make them legal, which I am supportive of, first of all, just so you know, this is something we have to address, I believe, largely on the on the city level. The city needs to address how they're going to do it. Whether we help folks out with some of those conversion costs, whether we can help you write it off, whether we can figure out a city fund, I'm willing to figure out our solutions to that. But, just so we know, it's on the city level that we need is the primary place where we need to address. That's where you're going to get your yes or no on this. That's where you're going to get like the money or the not money, et cetera, on this. It's on the city level. So our city council member, our mayor, our public advocate has talked about this. And we're happy to be supportive wherever we can, because I do think that making the stock, making it legal and safe is the goal for a lot of people, because a lot, as is mentioned here, is that basement dwellings, you know, a lot of our immigrant families, a lot of our working class families rely on it in order to afford it. So, you know, I think that they should be legal, but we also want to make sure that they're safe, and how we can help people make them safe. I think there's a lot of ways that we can skin that cat, but I'm supportive of getting it done, because at the end of the day, basement dwellings are going to exist, whether people want to call them legal or illegal or whatever. People are going to be living in basements. So how do we protect them? That's our number one. That's my number one concern anyway.
Thank you. And George, I believe they are working on that on the city level as we speak. So again, thank you, Congresswoman, for taking all this time to answer our questions and for all the wonderful work you're doing. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Hopefully next time we'll be in person.
Yes, hopefully. I think we
everybody.
said that before, but it never happened.
Yeah,
Thank you again.
My next vote. Thank you all.
Bye. Okay, Assembly Member Zoran Dani is up next.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to very briefly, because I know we have a very tight agenda, I wanted to very briefly give you a bit of updates as to what is going on with regards to my work in my office. Right now, we are in the midst of negotiating our budget for the next fiscal year. And so I've just gotten back from Albany. The budget is due on April 1st. And so for these next few weeks, it's going to be a back and forth between the Assembly, the Senate, and the governor as to what the budget should be. One of the critical issues for me and for our district that I am fighting for in these next few weeks is funding for CUNY. Some of you may have heard of the slogan of a new deal for CUNY. That has been one of my priorities over these past few months. We have more than 10,000 CUNY alumni in our district, the 36th district, over 6,000 current CUNY students, many faculty and staff. And what we are seeing in our institution, which should be the crown jewel of the city's education system, is that it's been systematically underfunded over many years. And we've heard from so many constituents as to how this underfunding has impacted them, whether it's they have an academic advisor who has more than 1,000 students in their caseload, or they're in a classroom that is literally crumbling, or they're an adjunct professor and they're finding classes being canceled at the last minute. And so they're being forced to live out of their car because they can't pay for rent. This fight is going to be going on for the next few weeks as we finalize this budget. And there is a substantive difference between what the governor's vision is for CUNY and what the Assembly's is in the Senate, namely that the governor's vision has funding at a little bit less than 150 million for CUNY. The Assembly has funding at 460 million, and the Senate has funding at 500 million. And so in these next few weeks of negotiations, each one of your voices would be much appreciated in letting the governor know that CUNY needs to be funded as to its needs, as opposed to as to what the governor says is currently possible. So in that view, there is a march happening in Albany on March 23rd. And I just wanted to put this information into the chat. If anyone is interested in coming up to Albany, I would love to see you there. It's called Red for Higher Ed, and it's being organized by the Professional Staff Congress, which is the union that represents faculty and staff at CUNY. The other major point that I just wanted to make today is that many people have seen massive increases in their Con Ed bills. It's something that is pushing a lot of people to the brink of being unable to afford living in our neighborhood. And right now, you may not believe it, but it happens to be the case that Con Ed is actually petitioning the state to further increase electric bills by 11.2% and gas bills by 18.2%. So that would equate to about $20.90 more per month for electricity, $37.88 more per month for gas for the average Con Ed customer. So this rate increase, if approved, would go into effect next year unless we stop it. And in case it's not made clear by my comments, I'm very much in opposition to Con Ed's proposal. And so we have a couple of avenues to make our voices heard, and I wanted to share them in this forum. There are a series of public hearings that are happening this month, virtually at 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. on the 22nd, the 29th, and the 31st of this month. These public hearings will help determine the outcome of the case. I will be speaking at one of them in opposition to Con Ed's proposal. I would love to see each and every one of you there to do the same. And our information will be giving more, our office rather, will be giving more information on Con Ed's proposal, how to sign up for the hearing, and how to prepare to make your voice heard. And yes, Isadora, at the end of my comments, I'm going to put in a couple of things in the chat to follow up on what I've introduced to everyone. And then additionally, if there's ever any issue or concern in that you're facing in your day-to-day life that you'd like us to know about, or you'd like our help in assisting, please do give our office a call at 718-545-3889, or you can email us at ad36@nyassembly.gov. And I'm going to put all of that information into the chat. But as always, it is a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I do hope that you're all having a lovely evening.
Thank you, Assembly Member, for being here. And about the Con Edison hike, I don't know one person who hasn't been affected by the hikes facing this. So Con Edisonville is becoming like a mortgage. So
Absolutely.
I suggest all of us attend these hearings. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And thank you for being here. And, our first public hearing item, first, before I go to the public hearing item, I just want to note that Clean Path New York will not be here tonight. They will come back when they have the actual route that they'll be using in Astoria. Thank you. So the only hearing item now is C210234ZMQ and N210235ZRQ, 11th Street and 34th Avenue rezoning. Mr. Sanjak, are you here?
I am. Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, I just want to disclose, this is Jerry Caliendo, that I am the architect representing the owner in illustration purposes.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, Mr. Sanjak, continue, please.
Great. I'm just going to share my screen and I'll jump right in. If someone could just give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen, that'd be great.
Yes, we can.
Thanks so much. So again, my name is Frank St. Jacques. I'm with Ackerman LLP. We're a land use council for this rezoning project. We have a pretty large team that's working on the project. The different consultants are listed here, and several members of the project team are also here on the Zoom and available for questions as needed. In brief, and we'll get into details later, but this is just an overview. This is an application seeking zoning map and text amendments to establish a special mixed use, or MX, zoning district, which pairs an M15 manufacturing district and an R6A residential zoning district, as well as zoning text amendment to create a mandatory inclusionary housing, or MIH area. So these actions would, facilitate the development of 2 new 8-story buildings with approximately 352 units, including 88 MIH units. We've made a change since the Land Use Committee, so let me read that again. We've actually reduced the total number of units by increasing the larger bedroom size units, so that's actually now is 332 total units and 82 permanently income restricted MIH units. Additionally, these buildings would provide new retail, artist studio space, space for an Andromeda Community Initiative trade school for construction, and a York Studios school for film and television production. There would also be a food distribution business, tech-oriented office space, and nonprofit office space. The goal of the project team is to bring new investment to the Ravenswood area, resulting in new housing and job-generating uses. So this land use map shows Northwest Ravenswood, which was zoned R5 back in 1961 with the enactment of the 61 zoning resolution. That R5 zoning district remains in place today despite the prevalence of industrial uses and higher density, despite the prevalence of industrial uses, which are shown in purple on this land use map. The rezoning area is also shown here at the center of the screen, outlined with black dots. It consists of the entire block 318 and has frontage on 4 streets. 34th Avenue to the south and 11th Street to the west are both wide streets, and 12th Street to the east and 33rd Road are both narrow streets. And as I mentioned on the land use map, you can see the surrounding area is a mix of light industrial, which is shown in purple, commercial, which is shown in red. That large the large red commercial use is the Costco right above Rainey Park. The Long Island City High School is to the northeast of the project area, shown in blue for community facility use. And despite the commercial overlay along Broadway that runs north along Vernon Boulevard, there's relatively little local retail in the area. I'll note that there's 2 development sites within the rezoning area. The northern site is Development Site 1. It's approximately 57,000 square feet, and Development Site 2 is on the north end of the block, and it's approximately 41,000 square feet. So this aerial view looking north provides some context. You can see the more industrial buildings surrounding the project site and more residential development north of Broadway, and to the south with the Ravenswood houses, and to the east with the estates at Hallett's Point. And then here's an aerial view looking south to give you some more context. You can also see the Queensview Co-ops to the east of the site on the left-hand side of the screen. And then towards the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side, you can see the Noguchi Museum, Costco, and the Socrates Sculpture Park, as well as that more dense residential development to the north of Broadway. So these photos show the 2 development sites and how they're developed today, the existing conditions. They're really industrial in nature today. There's very few street trees and little street life, blank street walls, loading docks, truck traffic, and the sidewalks are in disrepair. This zoning change map represents the zoning map amendment action, as well as the text amendment that would establish the M15 R6A MX district. And what the MX district does, as I noted, is it pairs the M15 manufacturing district with an R6A zoning district, which will allow for new medium density mixed use development that has a maximum FAR or floor area ratio of 5. Residential use is permitted up to 3.6 FAR and would require income restricted housing under the Mandatory Inclusionary Housing Program, or MIH, which I'll describe in a moment. The balance of the FAR with the MX up to 5.0 allows a wider range of uses and flexibility than a standard commercial overlay. And I'll show you what's proposed in a moment. So this project aligns with the goals identified in the Ravenswood study that was prepared by the Department of City Planning in collaboration with Community Board 1, and is similar to 2 of the other rezonings that have recently been approved. You can note on the map the M14 R7A that was established in the Broadway and 11th Street rezoning, and it's a little off of the map, but Community Board 1 recently approved another MX project at 35th and Vernon, which is still working its way through public review. So here are the project details for the northern building. As I noted, it's an 8-story mixed-use building, and we'll see this in a moment in the renderings. It lowers in height towards the center of the block, so it's 8 stories, then 6 stories, then 4 stories. It contains 194 units. 48 would be permanently income restricted units under MIH option 1. I'll explain that in a moment. And it contains, in addition to residential use, several non-residential uses, including new local retail, artist studio space, that Andromeda Community Initiative, or ACI Construction Trade School, and a production trade school in association with York Studios. It also has a 100-space cellar parking garage that would be accessible from 12th Street. The unit distribution is shown here. I noted at the outset of the presentation that the total number of units for both developments has decreased. This is because after the community board land use committee hearing last Thursday, the architect changed some of the the configuration of the units to add more 3-bedroom units and reduce the number of studio and 1-bedroom units. When we previously presented, the split between studios and 1s to 2s and 3s was more like 60-40, and now it's roughly 50-50. I believe it's shown here on the unit distribution. I'll show you a total. So this is the breakdown for the northern building. 14 studios, 88 1-bedrooms, 68 2-bedrooms, and 24 3-bedrooms, and the corresponding MIH breakdown: 3 studios, 22 1-bedrooms, 17 2-bedrooms, 6 3-bedrooms, and the percentages there. So with respect to MIH, this is the applicant has proposed MIH option 1, which requires that 25% of the residential floor area be income restricted at a weighted average of 60% AMI, which is in line with Community District 1's AMI. This would produce 16 units at 40% AMI, and you can see the corresponding breakdown by units and rents income limits. 16 units at 60% AMI, and 16 units at 80% AMI. This next slide shows the ground floor and second floor plan. So this is just the northern building. You can see the non-residential uses on the first and second floors. This is really the key to this special mixed-use zoning with the MX. Not only does it allow both the training school and the production school uses, which would not be allowed with a commercial overlay, it also allows that second floor of commercial use. So the ground floor would have those various commercial and light industrial or uses, and then the second floor would be devoted to office space. And one of the features of the proposed training school is that a portion of it would be double height to allow students to actually erect scaffolding and construction equipment to get real-time experience while they're participating in the school. Here's some additional information regarding the Andromeda Community Initiative. They're launching an expanded program, offerings in facade restoration, construction safety, and job placement. They've previously worked with Urban Upbound, but now at this site, they plan to have an on-site office for Urban Outbound to provide direct services to students. The ACI is going to be subsidizing, providing financial assistance and grants for its training programs. And as noted here, Urban Upbound is going to be assisting in that effort. We had some questions with respect to the art studio portion of the building at the committee hearing last week. So this is some additional information in an illustrative floor plan. Essentially, this is conceptual at this point. The goal really in terms of design is flexibility. So there could potentially be more studios, larger, smaller studios. Really the idea is to be able to reconfigure these spaces to suit artists' specific needs and the type of artwork that they produce. But the artist studio spaces it will be run by a nonprofit, either a nonprofit that would be formed by ACI or ACI itself, and potentially partner with other nonprofit arts organizations. Studio space would be available for emerging artists through subsidized or grant-funded studio residency program. And to be clear, residency would not be housing, but it's sort of an artist in residence at the studio. So these would not be for rent studios, but artists would be selected to work at the studios for a select period of time at no cost. And in addition to the studio space, there would also be exhibition and programming space along the street frontage of the building, as well as common areas and storage, as you can see on the floor plan. So moving southward to the second building, this is also an 8-story building. I'll show you the renderings in a moment. It also drops in height from 8 stories at its highest point to 6 and 4 stories as it reaches the center of the block. It has 138 units, 34 of which would be permanently income restricted under MIH option 1. In addition to the residential portion of the building on the third through 8th stories, the first 2 floors would have new local retail, food distribution business, office space that is going to be marketed to tech space, as well as about 10,000 square feet for a nonprofit organization. We're currently seeking a nonprofit tenant and have met with several organizations, but have not made that selection yet. This site has a 60 space cellar parking garage that would be accessed by 11th Street. The food distribution business is approximately 25,000 square feet. It's an existing business in New Jersey that currently serves the 5 boroughs. This would be an expansion of its operation into Queens to help it better serve and more efficiently serve its Queens and Brooklyn customers. And the office space is approximately 23,000 square feet, and as I noted, would be marketed for tech-related businesses. Here's the unit distribution on the bottom portion of the screen. This building also has fewer studios and ones than we presented on Thursday. So the breakdown is 10 studios, 61 bedrooms, 46 2-bedrooms, and 22 3-bedrooms for a total of 138 units and 34 MIH units. And you can see the percentages there. And here's the MIH breakdown, which shows that 11 of the 34 MIH units would be at 40% AMI. You can see the corresponding unit distribution, rents, and income limits here. 12 units at 60% AMI, and then 11 units at 80% AMI, with those breakdowns by unit size, rent, and income limit. So here are the ground floor and second floor plans for the southern building. As I noted, there's retail space, larger food distribution space, and then on the second floor, office space and nonprofit office space. So this is a breakdown of the total unit distribution for both buildings. And as I noted, between the last time we were here on Thursday, before the Land Use Committee changed the total number of units by increasing the number of 3-bedroom units. Essentially added 20 total 3-bedroom units. We were previously at 26, and now we're at 46. And increase the number of 3-bedroom MIH units to 11. So you can see the total breakdown is 24 studios, 148 1-bedrooms, 114 2-bedrooms, and 46 3-bedrooms. With respect to MIH, that's 6 MIH studios, 37 1-bedrooms, 28 2-bedrooms, and 11 3-bedrooms for a total of 82 MIH units. And that's roughly 52% studios and ones and 48 twos and threes versus it was approximately 60% studios and ones and 40% twos and threes when we were here last. And then again, the overall for both buildings, 82 total MIH units, 27 of which would be at 40% of AMI, 28 at 60% AMI, and 27 at 80% AMI. Just have a few more slides, and then I'm happy to take any questions. We understand that Community Board 1 is very interested in sustainability. We've shown sort of a rough graphic of the both buildings with some of the rooftop features, green space on the roofs, as well as solar panel arrays. This is actually a really good location to pick up solar. So only one would be required. Both applicants are opting to take advantage of this building's location and do both. In addition, there'll be high efficiency windows and increased insulation in the walls and the roof to reduce energy needs, as well as efficient appliances and lighting and as many smart technologies as they can build into reducing energy use for tenants and with the building itself. I noted the green roofs and solar panels. They would also build each building with efficient mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, as well as HVAC systems, again, in an effort to save energy and water. Stormwater management controls would be built in. This is using pervious pavement, rooftop retention of stormwater, and then landscaping with bioswales. I'll show you the street trees in a moment. You can see some of them there on the right-hand side of the screen. And then I'll also note that there's a significantly reduced carbon footprint required for all new buildings under the 2020 New York City Energy Code. So, there's, in addition to, the features that will be built in, this building will also be required to be significantly more green through new legislation. And then finally, there'll also be electric vehicle charging and bicycle parking in the cellar parking garages, and there should be bicycle parking throughout the building as well. Buildings, plural. So I think I have 2 more slides maybe, and then we'll wrap this up. You can see that the building form that I described, really focusing height along 33rd Road and then 34th Avenue on the northern and southern edges of the block, and then dropping towards the center. I noted street trees before. They're required at every 25 feet along each of the street frontages. So this will result in about 50 new street trees required to be planted surrounding the block. And you can also see that the intention with these ground floor uses and retail is to really activate the streetscape, improve the pedestrian experience, and really sort of revitalize this portion of Ravenswood with active new uses. That is it. I'm sorry, I know that was a long presentation. there's a lot of information there. Hopefully I didn't miss too much of it, but if we did, I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to pull down my screen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. St-Jacques. First, I will ask Elizabeth and Jerry as chairs of that committee, whether their questions have been answered or requests have been answered from the last meeting.
Yeah,
Elizabeth?
thank you, Marie. I'm going to be speaking because Jerry is not eligible to vote on this project. I was just going over the list that we had sent the applicant, and there are a couple things that had not been addressed. The projected programs for the artist studios costs, well, you talked a little bit about the lower, actually, what you described, was that more of an intern program that you're talking about for these? These students or these artists emerging artists will be coming, and there'll be a turnover and at no cost to them. But is there any plan in the future to have studios leased to artists from the neighborhood? I mean, that there was a little bit of confusion between what was presented last week and tonight.
Sure. Yeah, I think, and apologies if there's, I think some of this is, starting to crystallize a little bit more in the minds of the applicant. It's, still conceptual at this point, but the idea is to have a program that's essentially intended to promote emerging artists and emerging artists from Queens, if possible. The owner of the northern site hosts young artists currently in a building that Andromeda operates out of now. The idea is to really expand that concept and that idea by bringing in new artists to essentially have a subsidized place to work, produce their art, and hopefully find and success in the art world, through having a reliable and place to work at no cost. So again, early conceptual stages that this would be an application program to the nonprofit art studio operator with a rotating, probably I think they talked about a year or 2 year residency program to bring artists in, give them an opportunity to work for a period of time, get a foothold in the art world, and then bring in a new crop of artists. Again, not set in stone, and this is a new thing for that owner. So we'd be happy to take some comments and suggestions on that part.
Okay, thank you. Were you able to explore other options with respect to lowering the cost of the rentals for the MIH?
Sure. So one thing that we tried to get, we're happy to talk to HPD. We tried to get someone between last week and today, and weren't able to do so. Our understanding is that it might be difficult to use two programs, deep affordability, for example, as well as one of the other options. But that's something we're happy to explore. We just need to, confirm the viability of that with HPD. I'll note that the deep affordability program requires 20% of the residential floor area at an average of 40% AMI. So that would result in about 66 permanently income restricted units versus the 82 that are proposed. I will note that the application as proposed under MIH option 1 provides 27 now at 40% AMI, and then the balance at 60 and 80% AMI. So roughly just under half of the, well, let me say it a different way. 27 units are now being provided at 40% AMI. But again, and just to be clear, we're happy to have that conversation with with HPD if the deep affordability option if the application was modified by the city council to add the deep affordability option. That's, obviously we could confirm that that works with HPD.
Thank you. Any other questions, Elizabeth? You're muted. You're muted.
Someone muted me. And I wasn't saying anything. Are these units distributed throughout both the two buildings?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So it's two separate buildings. The MIH units, there's very specific requirements about, and essentially I had sent over the zoning resolution requirements, but we looked at it a little bit more closely. They'll essentially be MIH units on every floor because they're relatively small buildings.
The other issue we had had to do with the projected jobs, where if you would give us the numbers of the jobs that are being relocated and being generated by both buildings.
Sure. So I'll start with the generated portion. Just to confirm, did you receive the information I sent over on Monday?
Well, that information is only sent to the land use committee. So
okay.
we're not we need to share it with the general public.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that that you saw it. Our estimate, and this is for both buildings, with the environmental assessment statement, we used 96 that the project by both sites would generate 96 office employees, 72 retail employees, 163 trade school employees, 16 art studio employees, 30 community facility employees, and 2 food distributor employees.
These are new jobs.
That's correct.
Okay. If someone can add that up, that would be great. Let's see the space. I'm just looking at the list that we sent you.
Sure.
To make sure that everything, you went over the green energy, what's that? The energy conservation. Construction timetable for both projects.
Sure. So again, the environmental assessment statement estimated about a 27.5-month construction timeline for simultaneous construction of the 2 proposed buildings, and that's in line with the applicant's plans for the site. The applicant, plural, their plans for the sites.
What kind of a commitment do we have on that?
A willingness to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible. I mean, I can only tell you what they're telling me, and the rezoning process is just at the beginning. But at the conclusion of the process, their goal is to immediately go to the Department of Buildings with plans, and hopefully have financing lined up to build.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted one more thing to say. The office received an email from a resident of Astoria stating that she was not opposed to the project, but disagreed or was upset about the fact that even the subsidized rents that are being proposed, the affordable rents, are way beyond what she and other residents in the area would be able to afford. So this is a recurring issue that we have, and also the fact that it is only the minimum amount. 25% of the residential floor area is being allocated toward MIH. Understood that it is that is the regulation, and but it doesn't sit well with the with most people with respect to the way the program is. Madam Chair, I don't have anything else to report other.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any board members have a question, please use the raise hand function. Diana Limongi. You're muted, Diana.
Yeah. Hi. I just want to reiterate what I believe Elizabeth just said about the letter she got from a resident. Indeed, I find the rents listed just too high. And also, I know it's a bigger issue about, the number of units available, but again, I think it needs to be reiterated and just brought to the attention that, it's not enough. And the rents are too high. If someone, I think, I just saw that, a police officer makes a starting salary of $42,000. And if they have a family, like the numbers just don't add up in reality. Like I know what the market says, but I feel like in reality for the people that live here that maybe would want to move to a building like this, even if it's affordable, quote unquote, it doesn't make sense.
Thank you. Doreen Mohammed. Doreen.
Hi, just to reiterate the points that, Elizabeth and Diana just made, also kind of echo in the chat that like whatever union jobs that this would bring, like those people wouldn't be able to afford based on these rent percents, and doing the bare minimum of 25% MIH, which in itself is flawed. It's not really doing a service. We need developments that have deeply affordable housing with 75% or up, to especially make up for all the rent hikes and terrible things that are occurring across the city. So this doesn't seem like this project would be good for Astoria and its needs or community at all, especially not for that area specifically. Like, $2,000 for 75,000 a year, like that this doesn't work well. Like that, I don't see the point of this project.
Thank you. Antonella Severio.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, sorry.
Okay.
The carbon footprint that's produced by the scale of this building is already exceeded whatever carbon that you said that was mitigated with all the enhancements. So that's number one. Number two is, have you compared as part of your project the impact on the sewer? Because it's such a huge and large scale development. Have you compared it to a similar size development to see what the impacts on the local sewage would be? Or the sewer system, I mean?
Yes, so absolutely. That's a requirement for a project like this. I've mentioned the environmental assessment statement. I'll take a step back. And so any rezoning like this requires an extremely comprehensive assessment to determine if the rezoning were to be approved and if these projects were to be built, what are the potential impacts on different areas of analyses. One of them is infrastructure, including sewer infrastructure. This project, the Department of City Planning, on the advice of the Department of Environmental Protection, determined that it would not have a significant adverse impact on infrastructure.
And based on what? Because I know when you do the environmental impact statement, you really look at a small area outside of the project. You don't look at a large area. So can you tell me what that statement was based on?
It's based on the study area that's required under seeker. I don't have that in front of me, but it's the environmental assessment statement was performed, pursuant to state and city law. So it did make the determination that if this project were to be built, despite adding new residential users, it would not adversely impact the sewer infrastructure or any of the other areas of analysis.
Okay, thanks.
And if I could just take a moment to respond to some of the statements with respect to affordability. I'm happy to pull them back up on the screen, but this is a project that's providing mandatory inclusionary housing, permanently income restricted housing units pursuant to the program. It's providing a third of the units at 40% of AMI, a third of the units at 60% AMI, and a third of the units at 80% AMI. The average AMI for Community District 1 is roughly 60% AMI. We're averaging out at Community District 1's average. We're also providing the very low income levels at 40% AMI. And again, this is without any city subsidy. The building's market rate units cross-subsidize so that no city dollars, no taxpayer dollars are spent in funding these permanently income restricted units. Also note that there's a significant community facility component in both projects. I mentioned the art studio space as well as the nonprofit community facility space. So I think on balance, this is new development, and we will explore that deep affordability option with HPD. So thank you for flagging that, but I did want to respond with respect to some of the affordability comments.
Thank you. Kathleen Warnock.
Hey, thank you. I'm of two minds about this project because I love the mixed use and I love the studios and the training spaces and stuff like that, that you're bringing in jobs that aren't going to be creating a lot of pollution or anything, but then all the other stuff kicks in, which is one that it is a bit of a transit desert down there. You've got the one bus that runs down Vernon, you've got one bus that runs up Broadway, and you've got the ferry. So that's not the greatest situation for public transit. Secondly, I see that in a lot of ways, this is a trade-off between developers who want to be able to build market rate apartments and also get, putting in what they have for the community. So as has been mentioned before, the median income housing is skewed. And as Congresswoman Cortez said earlier, that's based on a very wide area that includes Westchester. So I see at this point, the market rate apartments will be the ones on the higher floors and people get a river view and they will be willing to pay for it. But we're going to have people who really don't fit into this very odd sort of hole that's called median income. And these are the people who would love to have good, safe, affordable housing, and you're giving only the smallest percentage of it. And so for me, that's very difficult to support completely because essentially, even though there's not much there right now, I live 3 blocks from there, you're not doing anything to keep people around here in a place where they can find affordable and nice housing. So that's my big issue on the whole thing.
So again, we'll look into that deep affordability option that would provide fewer units, but at that average of 40% AMI. I would note that this project, we believe, represents good, safe housing for a wide range of not only the MIH units, a wide range of incomes, but also market rate housing that will be new housing in an area that is relatively old housing stock, and we understand that there's a relatively low vacancy rate in Astoria. It's gone up a bit with COVID, but this is an area where we believe new housing could contribute to the overall community.
Thank you. George, Alexiou. George? George?
You have to unmute.
George, do you hear me? Can you unmute, please?
Are we going to vote for this?
Not right this moment. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Okay, thank you. Shanaz Samdi.
Yeah, hi everyone. I agree with everyone. Every time we say there's affordable house, but in the end, there is not affordable house and the rent is high. And the problem also, when we get this rent with this, like we say, the market like 2000 and all of this, is also increase the rent for the other people live in this area and make the problem for the other people want to live in Astoria, but they cannot now pay the rent with this high rent. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I just want to say something about that. We're always I have a problem with the MIH. And I believe that this is what's in existence today. And it needs a complete overhaul, which can only be done through legislation. So that's something to think about. Doreen?
Yeah, just to echo Shanaz's point, everyone's point, and the speaker's point of saying that, like, oh, this is meant to like serve the community, and like it isn't, and that this needs to be clear. Like, you can apply for rezonings with us, and whatever will happen. But please stop gaslighting community members and us that this is actually serving folks, especially as rent as well as Con Ed bills and everything is hiking. And that doesn't serve the community at all. Like replacing these low occupancy or whatever, like small houses that people have bought or can barely afford, replacing with these modern buildings that aren't accessible to most working class New Yorkers. Like that's not serving the historic community. And if there's any community it's serving, it's gentrifiers. And that is just not something that should, it continues to be enabled. And like us as a community board should not continue to rubber stamp that. So those are my thoughts.
If I may just respond, I appreciate the comment, but I'll note that these are industrial buildings. These are two, no housing is being replaced by this rezoning. These are underutilized industrial buildings. These are both owner occupied or owner developer sites. What the northern building is doing that benefits the community is providing 2 trade schools. These are trade schools that will take in students, train them in a trade, and put them out. This is essentially workforce training. These are not-for-profit schools, and that northern building also has that not-for-profit, art studio component. Both buildings will have market rate housing, but they will also have this, again, permanently income restricted housing. The southern building has a food distributor as well as retail. I didn't mention the retail in the northern building. Again, job generating uses. The food distributor will, we believe, serve the community, bringing access to food to other small businesses. It's a longstanding business in the New York City area that's moving from New Jersey into Queens to expand its business. And again, we're we believe that the development in this area is appropriate. We believe that the zoning is out of place. It's currently zoned R5. There is an option to develop entirely market rate housing within the R5 at a lower density, but it wouldn't have any requirement for affordable housing, and certainly not for permanently affordable housing or any of the other community-oriented amenities that these buildings are providing. So, I don't think it's disingenuous to indicate that these buildings have community benefits, because they do. They have, they'll be job generating, and they'll provide housing, new housing for a range of New Yorkers.
Okay, well, since you're addressing my points directly, I'll address back. One, when you develop an area, even if it's not currently housing places being replaced, it has a ripple effect. We see how gentrification development has played a role in that. 1, 2, there are already nonprofits and community initiatives that do things like workforce and food distribution, et cetera. I believe the dollars would go further if there was invested into those type of initiatives. And what we really need is affordable housing. Like more market rate housing in Astoria or in New York City in general is not great. I don't know the Queens numbers, but for instance, in Manhattan, which is a neighboring borough, there's like a 20% vacancy rate. Like there are issues of accessibility and affordability. So we just need things to be more affordable and representative of the community. We need developments, whether they're coming from the private sector, public sector, et cetera, to reflect that. And all the community members here, as well as multiple community board members, have been echoing that. So we're just trying to make that clear. Like this does not benefit the community at all. Like even without the rezone, you probably could build and get away with something. So like, at least just don't say it's benefiting the community. And if you're talking about a community, specify who, because it's not the working class New Yorkers.
Thank you. Amin? Amin, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Mari. Since we know that it is not really affordable, how we can make that affordable. And if we vote against it, we cannot stop them. They are doing their job. So I'm requesting everyone, let's find out that we need to solve this problem. We are there just showing that, we are having affordable unit there. So we are going to hope on that. But, how we can make that affordable, we need to think about it and talk about it and find the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Amin. Diana Imanji?
Hi, I wanted to kind of highlight the point that I think Kathleen made about it being a transit desert. There's no subway system that goes all the way there. There's a few buses. We know how reliable buses are, which I'm trying to say is that they're not very reliable. And I know we mentioned ferry. And one of the big concerns I have about the ferry is that, it's a whole other system, right? So if you have a person with a Metro card, that monthly Metro card doesn't work on a ferry, which is a whole other topic that I think at some point we all need to address, because it caters only to one portion of the community who can buy a Metro card and buy a ferry ticket, when we should be able to transfer between both, so that all New Yorkers can benefit from it. So I do think that it's a bigger issue for the entire area, not for the specific development, but one that we need to keep in mind.
Okay, that's a conversation for another time. Thank you. And Mitch Waxman?
Hi, I want to echo what my fellow board members have said about transportation. That is going to be a real issue for the people living in these proposed buildings. I wonder which firehouse is additionally going to be servicing the needs of your potential tenants, which hospital is going to be adding capacity for the anticipated needs of your tenants. Are we, I believe we're still in the 114th precinct at this location. I wonder about their services, about the sanitation department and so on, and the municipal cost of this project, which extends far beyond the tax breaks that you'd be expecting through the MIH and AMI programs. Additionally, I'm sorry for the pointed question, but would any of the 72 retail jobs or any of the other job generation jobs that you're discussing, would any of these people be able to afford to live in one of these buildings?
Thank you, Mitch, for that comment. Vanessa Jones-Hall. Vanessa, can you hear me? Unmute?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Yes, I once echoed the agreement like everyone else, and also about the infrastructure, because we find a lot of these developers building and tapping into or the sources that's already there, and you very rarely hear them say or speak about how they're strengthening the infrastructure other than just where the building is sitting. But my main concern is the fact that this is weeding out the family structure, all these developments. They're not considering that this neighborhood has a strong family structure. And then, I mean, I'm all for, growth. I'm all for building up, but you're losing the whole concept of family. I don't see where every time a new building comes up in our neighborhood, you lose the concept of family. Right now, just around the Astoria houses, you have like 4 different construction sites going on, putting up these buildings. And you hear the same thing come before this board each and every time about affordable, each and every time about how they are going to improve the neighborhood. Only thing I see improving is themselves, who are wealthy enough, and they're pushing out the families, the small mom and pops. We lost a lot of diners. That was the main pillar of our communities. And it's a shame that you can't keep what made Astoria and Long Island City, that you can't you can't continue to have that as we grow. And we're finding this coming up, even like it was stated about our schools, our hospitals. None of that is being improved. So every time these guys come before the board, and this is what bothers me about us having this board, where is our strength and power for us to exist if they're allowed to override us? And I find that quite troubling, because this is not good. And it's continuing, and to me, it's getting worse, and it's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, no other board member has a question or comment. I will go to, Jean Marie. Jean Marie, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I kind
Go
of,
ahead.
Vanessa kind of took the words out of my mouth, but also I did want to mention one other item about the transportation. I know a few people that live down in that area. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 3 bus lines that go down there. I know it's the 102, 103, and I think the 18 or 19, but they stop running at 1 a.m. in the morning. So for people that are working or have to be transported from train stations or down that area, there really isn't transportation. I believe it ends like at 1 a.m. Am I correct? Maybe Mitch can confirm with me.
I believe you're right.
Because many people have complained that, people that work later or even socializing to get home down to that area, even near near the Durst building and all down that neighborhood, in Vernon Boulevard, there's really no transportation after 1 a.m. And what happens for people that work late, work nights, like I said, go out socializing? They have no means of transportation unless they can afford to take an Uber or a taxi, whatever, which is really, very high right now. So that's something else that has to be looked into. Like they all said, the infrastructure, but transportation also has to be a little better down that area.
Thank you,
That's
Jean
it.
Marie. Thank you. Shanaz, you have another comment?
Yeah, regarding the transportation, you have 104 by the Broadway and 34th Avenue. You have 34th Avenue and the 11th Street. That's the only bus goes there. Other buses, you have to walk to Vernon Boulevard, or you have to walk to 36th Avenue and Vernon Boulevard. Is no close to one beside 103 and is 104, and it's taken forever to get these 2 buses.
All right, this is also a conversation perhaps that Transportation Committee could advocate for, Mitch, if you're hearing me, at some point. Thank you.
You got it.
Dominic Stiller?
Hey, thanks. So this is a tough one, because in our neighborhood here in Dutch Kills, we have so many storage facilities. And I know what these developers can do as of right. They can build R5 density zoning, which is slightly less dense than this, with absolutely no affordable housing. This specific area, from my recollection, is really, it's not like a residential, it's not as dense as the residential areas now. It's between Vernon and 21st. And, a storage facility there, probably not as good. An R5 development as of right would be all just market rate and probably higher rates. So I'm really torn on this one. I wonder if Mr. Franco, I think, is really doing a commendable job. I don't see him on the screen, St. Jacques. But I mean, this is a big ask, but I wonder if you would be the first developer to, I don't know if you have the authority to say, you know what? I'm going to add an extra 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom and studio and bring my rates to 30% and not 25, which is the minimum. And then this would be a no-brainer on the positive side for me. Is there anything you can do right now to increase those ratios so you're above the legal limit? You have 84 apartments, which is much more than a lot of the presentations we see. You're at 60% average, not 80. What can you do? Because I kind of really appreciate all the dissension that's coming from the vocal members of the board but I also see the other side, and I see the storage facilities and what you can do as of right. What could you do?
So I just want to point out, we did increase the number of 3-bedroom units, and thought we had provided a pretty good mix of family size units, so 2-bedroom units and 3-bedroom units. Since last Thursday to now, have made that change. You know, it results in a decrease of overall units because there's you know, there's only so much space in the building, but we've really changed the overall unit distribution to decrease the studios in ones, and increase the number of 3-bedroom units, again by 20 units, resulting in 46 total. You know, I can't commit to providing more affordability off the cuff. I'm a representative for clients, so I'd need to have that conversation with them. You know, I appreciate the community board's ask for more in terms of the you know, going above and beyond the MIH program. But again, I'll note that this is two private developers, local developers that are not seeking any city or state subsidy to build these projects and to build the mandatory inclusionary housing that goes in them. We will look into the deep affordability program. That would be 20% of the residential floor area at 40% AMI. I think that's what we're hearing that the community board is looking for, but we would actually have to have the application modified by the city council to make that change. So we'll look into it, we'll discuss it with HPD, and you know, we'll have to get back to the community board. This is you know, a lengthy public process, and we're in it until the end, so we can continue to be in touch with the community board, recognizing that you're making a vote tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Isadora Zanon. Can you unmute her, Mark?
I'm sorry, Marie, who?
I got it, Isadora, I got it.
Isadora, okay. Can you hear me, Isadora?
Isadora,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, she is unmuted. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Isadora. I was the person who wrote in today expressing concerns about this housing development. And that's because I live in this neighborhood. I live on 34th Avenue between 13th and 14th Streets. I know exactly what this neighborhood is like. I've lived in Astoria for almost all of my life, and I've lived in this apartment for 16 years, and I live with my mother. And I would love to afford an apartment in this new development. Wouldn't it be nice? But it's not the reality that I'm facing, and it's not the reality of most people of my generation. I'm 32, by the way. And because of new developments in Astoria, it's not just that you know, those developments have the market rates, but they raise the rent in the surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm concerned not only that this will go up, but that my own rent in my current apartment unit and the rents of my neighbors will go up because of this development, right? And so it doesn't mean that because they're not kicking anyone out, that other people won't be displaced.
That's my lemonade.
What?
Due to this new development. In the past 10 years, my mom hasn't been able to move out of her current apartment into a 1-bedroom apartment because she can no longer afford rates in Astoria. I can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment in Astoria. I make the medium income for Astoria, which by the way is $45,000. I can only afford to live either with a roommate or partner up with someone, which, you know, can lead to people staying in toxic and abusive relationships because they cannot afford to live on their own. So I'm also suggesting that you up the amount of 2 and 3 bedroom houses, because frankly, our generation cannot afford to live in 1 bedroom houses. That is just not the reality of 20, 30 something year olds in New York City right now. And it's not just me. Most of my friends are making under $50,000. So the reality is that I would have to share an apartment with someone were I to move out of my house, which I cannot do because I would then leave my mother homeless. So this is, a big issue. I understand that one rezoning license request is not solving this, but I just wanted to put out there that I don't think this is actually going to do any good for the neighborhood. I don't think that any of the jobs that you're proposing would increase, any of the job creations you increase. None of those people would be able to live in those units. And I looked it up. I'm going to throw some statistics at you now. Excuse me for speaking very fast, but there are currently 8 apartments listed on StreetEasy in Astoria for less than $2,000. Your new development would increase that number to 16. Furthermore, you said that there's a trade school for construction. The average income for construction workers are $41,000 to $51,000 in New York. The average income for AV techs, there's a film and production studio. The average income for AV tech starts at $37,000. The median income for people who work in NGOs is $57,000. There's just no way that the people who would be working in your proposed new development would be able to afford to live there. So I don't see what the development is bringing into the neighborhood other than people who can already afford other units elsewhere. Frankly, the household median income is $45,000 in Astoria, and I don't see any of those people being able to afford anything but the few affordable housing units that you are required by law to include, okay?
Thank you for your comments. Alex Moleskio.
Alex, please open your microphone.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna read my testimony now. Hi everyone, my name is Alex Moleskio and I'm the Senior Director of Programs at Urban Upbound. Urban Upbound is dedicated to breaking cycles of poverty in New York City, public housing, and other low-income neighborhoods. We provide underserved youth and adults with the tools and resources needed to achieve economic prosperity and self-sufficiency through 6 comprehensive integrated programs: employment services, college access and youth development, financial fitness and affordable housing, tax prep and income support services, worker cooperative development, and business innovation and financial inclusion service anchored by the Urban Upbound Federal Credit Union. Andromeda Community Initiative is currently one of Urban Upbound's referral partners. Through this partnership, ACI has supported Urban Upbound's job training and readiness programs, which is a critical component of breaking cycles of poverty in lower income communities. We at Urban Upbound are grateful for the opportunity to expand our partnership with Andromeda Community Initiative as part of the 11th Street and 34th Avenue project. We look forward to continuing conversations with Andromeda and ACI to further develop this partnership. Thank you for hearing my testimony tonight.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, Chi Dive 23. Am I saying that correctly? Can you hear me?
Here today?
Go ahead, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is okay. I wanted to start off by saying that I'm speaking for rezoning 11th Street and 34th Street rezoning. My name is Nikia George, and I'm a community advocate for Woodside Houses in Queens. I'm writing to express my support for the proposed zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment to facilitate new mixed-use developments on 11th Street and 34th Ave. The proposed development would include over 352 units, of which 88 to 105 will be permanently income restricted under MIH significantly less than the market rates for comparable units throughout the neighborhood. Additionally, rezoning will facilitate potential growth within the neighborhood's art culture by creating an artist studio space, York Studios Film and Production Trade School, as well as creating a technology, advertising, and media space. This zoning change would also facilitate more job opportunities through its creation of retail spaces, as well as a food distributor. This will assist with jobs for the community and assist with economic development. I support the proposed rezoning and ask that you support as well. Thank you in advance for your consideration. My name is Nikia George. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Marissa Williams.
Please open your mic, Marissa.
Good evening, everyone.
Go ahead, please.
My name is Marissa Williams, and I'm a representative of 32BJ. I am here tonight on behalf of the union and our 85,000 property service workers in New York City to express our support for the proposed 11th Street and 34th Avenue project. 32BJ supports responsible developers who invest in the communities where they build. I am happy to report that the developers affiliated with this project have reached out early and made a credible commitment to create prevailing wage building service jobs at this site. This commitment means that workers in Queens will have full access to family sustaining wages, retirement, and quality health benefits in a time where New Yorkers need them most. We estimate that a mixed-use development like the one proposed by the developer will be permanently staffed by an estimated 6 building service workers and will also have approximately 84 affordable housing units in accordance with the MIH program. For these reasons, we are in full support of this project. We have full confidence that the developers will be responsible employers and presence in the community. We respectfully urge you to approve this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Shula, Inside Track PR. Mr. Shula, Ms. Shula, can you unmute yourself, please?
Please open your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Ms. Shula.
Yeah, so I'll be reading a letter on behalf of Reverend Hassan Clark, who couldn't be with us today. So he wrote, hi, I'm Reverend Hassan Clark, and I'm a senior associate pastor at the Center of Hope International. I'm in support of the rezoning of 11th and 34th Avenue project. This development will bring a construction, trade school, a movie production house, and training center. I believe that adding these resources, along with the affordable housing that it will bring, is very exciting. I strongly believe that this project is a step in the right direction, working with the reliable nonprofit partners and community leaders to expand economic opportunities for the residents of Long Island City. Please accept this testimony as my support for the rezoning.
Thank you. Doreen, do I see your hand up? Final comment? Question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, echo all the points that Isadora said, which that probably did a much better job than I did, because, there are real community members being really affected by these rezonings, and, like developers are not entitled to them. If they're going to develop anyway, they would have just done that. I think if we want more affordable housing, at the very least, I would need to see something that's like 50% upward, because just a little bit more than the required 25% doesn't impress me, especially given all the issues with AMIs. There really needs to be a genuine good faith, ambitious effort, because there really is a housing crisis. This is near where all the underfunded NYCHAs are, for crying out loud. The New York City, the homeless crisis is really getting worse and creating more market rate and not truly affordable housing units. It's not helping anyone. So I just want to make sure that was clear before we close out.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sanjak. We'll be closing this hearing now. We'll vote on this during the business section.
Chair, if I just may say one last thing, and
I'm sorry, I have one more participant that just raised their hand.
Oh,
a member of the public. 1 second, please.
Thanks.
We unmute that mic. The Assembly of God.
Yes, my name is Reverend Bobby Moore. I'm the overseer of the Historic Baptist Church located at 3117 21st Street, located in Long Island City, New York. I would like to express my support for the 11th and 34th Street Avenue rezoning project. I really am in favor of the rezoning because I believe it will support local employment, boost our local economy. This project will provide retail space for the community, which will allow for the creation of more employment opportunities for its residents. The development will provide 10,000 square feet for a nonprofit organization to come in and empower our community, providing space and resources to local creative and organizations. They are also committed to providing trade school for the community, which many of our young people are in dire need of. They will also be committed to just allowing potentially work, create jobs to happen in our community. So I'm in support for the rezoning of this property to accommodate this new development. Thank you for hearing me out on tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, I apologize, Mr. St. Jack, for cutting you off. I think I said that the hearing is closed and we will now vote for this during the business section.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm sorry, do we have someone else? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on.
Madam Chair, I just got and I apologize for jumping in again. My understanding is Reverend Corwin Mason of one of the local churches is also signed up to speak, or had asked to speak.
Well, we don't see him here. Is he on the call?
I just got pinged on my cell phone, but I'm not sure about on the Zoom. So apologies if you guys aren't seeing him, then there's nothing
I
can
don't see
do.
him. Mark, do you see him?
No, I checked Corwin. It's not coming up.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thanks so much. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the February 2022 minutes?
Motion.
Anyone? Second?
Second, Jean DeLeva.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Chair's report. Last night I was on the borough board meeting and we voted on the borough president's response to the mayor's fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget. Disturbing note is that Queens receives less funding per capita than other boroughs. Some recommendations in the response to the mayor's budget was to restore funding to community boards. Queens community boards, once again, receive less per capita support when the average number of residents served is higher than other boroughs. Other recommendations were to increase capital expense funding for Queens HHC hospitals, expand capital funds for expansion of schools, create and preserve more affordable housing, and expand community land trusts. We will be sending the material out so you can read it in depth. The borough president, of course, and the borough board is fighting for more funding for Queens in response to the mayor's budget that has several cuts in it. Thank you. Florence?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see you again. Our office is still following through working on shore towers. There was the hearing and they were fined. We are waiting for determinations. Public access was made a condition in 1989, rezoning via DDEC, enforceable by DOB as if it is a part of the zoning of this site. From the DDEC, I quote, "The pathway shall be accessible from New York City streets without barriers of any kind and shall be open and both to residents and non-residents of the building to be constructed on subject property and non-discriminatory basis. The pathway may be a part of the required residential open space. The Department of Buildings is working further on this discovery and our office will keep you updated on the progress. Special Operations Unit inspected and issued summons to the owner for failure to provide public access to bike paths per restricted declaration. We will continue to ensure a timely resolution to this issue. Please call 311 whenever you observe a failure to comply. This will facilitate documentation. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you. Committee reports, Airport, Rosemary Poveromo. Rosemary, can you hear us? Should we see, is Rosemary still on the line? I don't see her. Okay, I will wait. I'll go to Dino, Consumer Affairs, Dino Panagoulias.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Yesterday evening, we had a meeting with our committee, and we actually had a business owner come in from Rosso Toro. There were a number of 311 complaints for noise that were permeating from blocks away. I want to thank Florence for compiling all the information, and actually want to reach out to whomever on the community is on this particular meeting, where if there are other businesses or restaurants that are creating nuisances in the neighborhood, if you can bring it to Florence's attention, and we'll handle that. So with that being said, we actually brought the owner, Mr. Salazar of Rosso Toro, to the committee meeting, had a conversation with him, and had a genuine conversation about the fact that he has in fact been implementing changes where the manager is now no longer there, and actually reducing the number of types of bands that are actually coming in. And so that actually helps reduce the decibel level. So if any members of the community are facing issues such as that, bring it to our attention. We'll call in that business owner, and we'll make sure that we have that conversation to take care of those particular concerns. And the most important thing that I just want to remind everyone is that while you may feel that 311 may not be of a benefit, it is a recorded kind of process where exactly all of the complaints are then compiled. They come to us. We also have NYPD, so Officer Tovar was able to give his input specifically on the use of resources for the 114th precinct, where there are actual instances where officers are needed somewhere else, but they're then dedicated to going out and taking care of these complaints. So I just want to urge the community members to make that very vocal kind of concern made to our community board office, and specifically to Florence. With that being said, there are 21 businesses up for license renewal according to the spreadsheet that every single member should have been sent out. We don't have any concerns that have been raised that are of note, and so there was no issue with deciding to go ahead and allow for that renewal of the license. So if I can please get a motion for the approval of those 21 businesses, I would appreciate it.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Amin.
The second,
Amy House seconds.
thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Any objections? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you so much. And I definitely look forward to seeing everyone in person, hopefully by the next meeting.
Still to be determined.
We shall see.
We shall
Thank
see.
you.
When we get the word, you'll get the word.
That's exactly it.
Thank you. Environmental sanitation, Antonella Dominic.
Thank you, Marie Chair. I did it again. Thank you, Madam Chair. DP, we're trying to get them to hopefully come and speak to at the April 12th meeting to talk to us about the dangerously high haloacidic levels in our water. Right now, only homeowners are getting the letters. So if they're actually reading it, they would know that it's a dangerous level. So I guess what we want to do is how to work with them, how to get the word out so that people who don't get the letters know, and also how to cure the issue on a go forward. And so that's going to be on April 12th. Dominic, do you have anything to add?
No, nothing else to add, Marie Chair.
Sorry.
Thank you, Dominic and Antonella. Housing, Vanessa, I understand you're giving that report tonight. Vanessa?
According to Rosemary, there are some technical issues muting and unmuting. Vanessa may be on the same path. Rosemary says she can hear the whole meeting.
I'm sorry. But Vanessa just spoke, so I'm
Yeah,
just
Vanessa's
looking for-
unmuted.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, please. Housing Committee report, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We had a housing committee meeting. We met yesterday on March 14th to discuss the tenants' rights and eviction protections, especially now that the eviction moratorium has expired. Two guest presenters from Community Reset, Andy Angela, former community board member, and Communities Recess Director of Advocacy and Internal Affairs, and Stephanie Cunningham, Senior Staff Attorney. They gave a thorough presentation with a wealth of information, and Evie had asked that the board office share this information with the entire board. It can be viewed live on the Community Board One's Queens YouTube channel. A key takeaway is that if anyone is facing eviction due to rental arrears owed on or after March 13, 2020, even though the court's date has scheduled cannot be applied for emergency rental assistance anymore, and that this should not prevent their cases from being proceeding. This meaning that you have a lot of people who think that because this have ended, that they case will not be seen, and that's not true. The process will not be halted. This will also halt the evictions process as well. Even though there is no more funding left at the moment in the ERAP fund, applications are still being accepted in the event that more funding becomes available. So we are encouraging those who still finding themselves in this position to go head on and apply for assistance, as we may see more funding be put in place. Hopefully those who are in charge and putting funding there will realize that this is still a great need to the community and the struggles that the people have faced since COVID. Thank you for our report.
Thank you, Vanessa. Land use and zoning, Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. You should have all read the report with the charts that were sent to the board members. And a number of our members had the same issues brought up with respect to the affordability of the units and general trends going on. And for us, it was a hard decision also, but ultimately, what a number of committee members wanted to do was reserve judgment. They did vote, they did support the project in committee, but they were reserving the final judgment on the project for the presentation tonight and having all of the information responded to, all of the questions responded to that we asked at the meeting. So the recommendation that was supported was that the motion go on the floor to approve the application with strong recommendations to increase 2 and 3 bedroom units and look into providing deeper affordability income tiers through the use of combining the options. So if someone could second that motion, we can, I guess, discuss it, Marie.
Second.
Chair.
Who's the second? I'm sorry.
I mean, Mehdi.
Okay. Any further discussion on this motion? I think we discussed it for quite a while. Tom? Did you want to speak, Tom?
No, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, any further discussion on this motion? Okay, Amy, could you do the roll call, please?
Yep, hi.
Hi, Amy. Thank you.
What are we calling you tonight? Marie Chair?
I don't know. But
It's getting
better than
late.
I guess it's better than calling me something else.
Let's correct you, Madam Chair.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you so much.
I am going to call the vote. Ms. Helene Abiola, a yes or no?
Sorry, what are we voting on? I was reading the house.
The 11th Street, 34th Avenue rezoning.
In support of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes vote. Roseanne Alagifanis, are you
She's not
here?
here.
George Alexiou? George?
I don't see him. Did he leave?
He was here.
I know he was.
George? Okay. I'm going to move on to Danielle Alberti.
Yes.
Thank you. Is Andy Odgley?
No, he's no longer on the board.
Oh, sorry. Louise Bordley?
I don't
think I
believe
saw her.
Louise here. She is not here tonight.
Shoma Brahmanadam.
Yes,
Am I getting close?
very close. Ramanand.
From when I see you, please give me a pronunciation lesson. Is a yes or no vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And Bruno?
Yes.
Thank you. Jerry, you can't vote. Iraq Shahansky
I don't think Iraq can vote either.
is
works for
okay.
the city
Is he
council.
here? Okay.
I thought I saw him, but he can't vote.
Jean Marie DeLeva?
Yes.
Thank you. Antonella?
No.
Katie Elman?
I don't believe Katie is here tonight. Thank you.
I thought I see her under attendees. Can
Katie,
somebody?
I'll let her talk. Katie's an attendee who's turned down.
Yeah, she's here.
Turned
She
down.
just
multiple
chatted, I am here.
I am here. Thank you for elevating me to the panelist. I vote
Okay.
no.
Okay, thank you.
No vote.
What was the vote? No?
Yes, it was no.
Elizabeth Arion?
I vote yes.
Mackenzie Farquhar?
No.
Not, you're here. Okay. Dean Veratovic?
Yes.
Shahanas Hamdi?
No.
Is Evie Hansopoulos here?
No, she had to leave.
Okay. Amy Howe is a yes. Helen Ho?
No.
Vanessa Jones Hall?
She was just here.
Vanessa?
Vanessa, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm a no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Kusami?
If you can hear me, yes.
Thank
We
you.
can hear you. Thank you.
Nancy
Okay, good.
Conopal?
No.
Amar Khat? No,
I
don't think I
don't
saw
believe
him.
he's here.
Jerry Krill?
Yes.
Thank you. Christine Lastris?
No.
Christina, sorry. Diana Lamoji?
No.
Chelsea Lopez? Hannah Lupian?
Yes.
Jeffrey Martin?
I don't believe Jeffrey is here tonight.
I don't think I saw him either. Amin Mahedi?
Amin, can you hear us?
No.
Antonio Maloney? Doreen Mohammed?
Antonio Maloney was here. I'm sorry.
Is he still here?
Tony Maloney, are you still with us? No, maybe not.
Okay.
No, he's not Marie.
Okay. Doreen, I got your vote as no, right?
Yes.
Yep, that's correct. That's a no.
Eric Mouche?
Not here.
Not here. Stella Nicolau?
No.
Mary O'Hara?
She's not here.
Dino Panagoulias.
Yes.
Thank you. Juliet Payava. I didn't see her. Oh, she is. She's here.
No, she's
Juliet?
here. Juliet, can you
Yes.
hear us?
No, I'm here now.
Okay.
Your vote is
Thank
no.
you.
Okay. Rosemary Poveromo.
Never got back on the line?
Okay, I don't think so.
She can hear, she can't speak.
Yone Robinson.
She's
Yone?
not here. She's not here. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Brian Romero.
He's not here as well.
Thomas Ryan.
Paying for cause?
Okay. Dominic Stiller.
Yes.
Andre Stith.
Not here.
Rod Townsend.
Yes.
Judy Trilivas.
Not here.
Kathleen Warnock.
No. There I am.
Mitchell Waxman.
No.
Rosemary Yelton.
I
No
think she's
Rosemary,
here.
right?
I think she's here. Well, was here.
Okay.
Rosemary Yelton. No, I don't see her now.
Then last but not least, Marie Tornielli.
Yes.
Oh, wow. It's a tie vote. 15 yes, 15 no, and 2 abstention.
Interesting.
What is, I have a question with this tie. What is exactly is being, what is the exact vote of this rezoning? What is this exactly?
Who
So I
is
can-
speaking?
This is Vanessa, I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, Vanessa. Okay, what is the exact vote? Okay, Elizabeth, can you read the motion, please?
The motion states to approve the application with a strong recommendation to increase the 2 and 3 bedroom units and look into providing deeper affordability income tiers by combining the use of the MIH options.
Does that answer your question, Vanessa?
So that means to increase 3-bedroom apartments more than what they have and to increase the affordability rate. Is that the motion?
Yes, to approve the project. It's not a condition of approving. It is, it was a straight up and up, it was a straight yes or no to the project. These are very strong recommendations that will be written to the Department of City Planning with copies to the council person so that they can continue negotiating with HPD and trying to increase the number of the affordable family units and also decrease change the income tiers so that it would be closer to the area median, not the general city median.
So with the current rates that they showed us, we're requesting for them to go ahead on and possibly get that change as far as the rate of the income versus the amount of apartments and increase the amount of apartments that to make it more family friendly, correct?
More friendly, more
Yes.
family friendly, and also to lower the costs, the rental costs. That's what it boils down to. But it's, as I said, it's not a condition. It was either you support the project or you don't support the project, but we have a very strong recommendation that they do this, which they would have to negotiate through HPD and the council.
Excuse me, Elizabeth. I'm Shahnaz. But this letter, we asked it during in the last week when we did the meeting, and already all the change you show us today after what this letter, that means is no change. This is only the letter after already they change what they show us today.
No, I don't think so. There were some modifications made to the numbers of units that that were designated affordable. They reduced the number of studios and increased the number of twos and threes. They decreased, I think, the 1-bedrooms and increased the number of twos and threes. And when they do that for the whole project, it translates also to the MIH, to the affordable units, because it's proportional. If you have 50 units, then you have to have 25%, of 50 that are affordable. So there was a change. It was renegotiated, but we're asking that they look for median incomes that are lower than what they've stated. It's something that they have to work out with HPD. It's not something that we really, or even city planning, has any bearing on. And really, we're looking tonight at the development itself, the building itself. So all of the other issues regarding the costs, the rental costs, and the number of units, et cetera, are things that are negotiated outside of the purview of city planning and the community board. We can strongly suggest that they do it, but it's not part of the approval process in city planning, where we come in with respect to the, what our purview is. So that's why we have this dilemma, because there is a benefit. We would like to see some community, some affordable development come in, but it's not within our right to dictate what goes on within the project, but we can influence. That's up to the council, really. They have the final say in it.
Okay, so I would say,
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. We voted either we're approving the project or not approving the project. That's what this vote was.
Correct. It boils down
recommendation.
to yes or no. It's a recommendation.
We're only a
to city
recommendation.
planning. That's right. To city planning and also to the borough president. We have to get, okay?
Okay.
As is the case on every ULURP. It's a recommendation. Okay.
Oh, so what happens when there's a tie? I mean, I believe Evie was on the meeting. I don't know if she got kicked off or what happened, but
no, Evie did not get kicked off, Doreen. She informed me that she had to go because she has an 11 p.m. deadline.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
So,
Great.
yes.
It's time.
I'm sorry?
It's time to conclude.
Excuse me. I have, I don't know if Oni wants to speak on this issue. I would say if we have a tie vote, we have no recommendation. And that's the way it is. Unless you disagree with me, Elizabeth.
I've never been in a situation like this.
Well, I'm just using common sense.
Yeah.
On a vote, what would the numbers, Amy? I'm sorry.
15-15 with
Yeah.
three.
Vote 15-15. There was no consensus. There was no consensus, and that's done. Okay, everybody agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, transportation. And I missed parks, I'm sorry. Ladies first, parks, Kathleen Warnock.
We don't have a report.
Okay, Katie, you're trying to confuse me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Transportation, Mr. Waxman.
We had a couple of presentations, one of which was the Clear Path presentation we were supposed to see tonight, which I won't bore you with, as we'll be seeing it, I'm sure, at a later general board meeting. That's going to be Transportation Committee's involvement with that revolved around moving transmission lines into the neighborhood. But the engineers from the New York State Power Authority and other entities that presented hadn't created the route yet. So there really was nothing to discuss other than generalities. The MTA and the New York City DOT also presented to us on a redesign of 21st Street between Queens Plaza North and Hoyt Avenue. And it's a pretty profound reimagining of 21st Street that I suspect is going to be quite an adjustment for Astoria to get used to the new traffic flow and to the reimagining of the buses. There's several places where the DOT is proposing eliminating left turns along 21st Street.
I want to correct, I would like to correct most, not several, most. Left turns are going to be banned 24/7.
Right. Florence sent out their presentation to the board. I really would beg of you to take a look at that presentation and analyze it. And I suspect this is something we're going to be talking about for a while.
Yes.
End of report.
Thank you, Mitch. Elected officials, representatives, please raise your hand if you wish to report to us. I see Ernie Brooks. Ernie? Ernie, can you hear me?
Yeah, do you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. Well, it was good to hear all this debate on the affordability, and I don't have an official position from the Congresswoman, but I know that she would agree with, I believe she'd agree with me to go for as much of the deepest possible affordability that's available. And I'd say that's because there is a crying need for affordable housing in Western Queens. I also liked hearing the support that seems to be indicated for community land trusts by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because I think that's, could be a factor in alleviating what's been going on in terms of people really getting priced out of these neighborhoods. Of Carolyn Maloney's activities over the last couple of weeks, one thing she did on Friday was oversaw the delivery of a new medical unit that's in one of the courtyards at Astoria Houses. This is primarily for COVID testing and vaccinations, and it's being supplied by the floating hospital. And I think there's, a chance that there'll be other operations provided there by floating hospital because obviously, well, there's going to be still need, hopefully less need for the testing and the vaccinations, but it took a while to get this to happen. Carolyn's been working on it for months and months, arranging the financing, and it finally got delivered on Friday. Also on Friday, there was a hearing at Jacob Reese Center at Queensbridge Houses, and this was in her role as chairwoman of the Committee on Oversight and Reform, and was along with Representative Raul Grivala. And this was about the new bill that's gone through Congress, the Biden-Harris Justice 40 initiative, intended to ensure that climate and clean infrastructure investments benefit frontline communities. And it's based on the state part of it is based on state level policy currently being implemented in New York. So we're bringing the forward-looking policies of New York. It's now being backed up by the federal government. And after this press conference where there was a lot of discussion about the impact of pollution and how that part of Queens, as everybody probably knows, that parts of Western Queens are now have been known for years as Asthma Alley. And this is going to be ensuring that we're shutting down polluting, hazardous, disease-causing power plants and replacing them with cleaner and hopefully fully clean energy. And this also involved a trip by all the committee members that were there and various press and various environmental leaders to the Big Alice power plant, which I think obviously is something we're hoping will be shut down in the not too distant future, as long as clean energy can be brought in to replace that energy. Another important thing is that the money that has been brought in for the community, $6.3 million for the District 12 community, which includes money that's going to places like the Floating Hospital, places like Queens Together. There's support for Urban Upbound in there. I mean, a lot of good projects in the Western Queens part of our district in the community board that overlap into Community Board 1's area. And she's also finally got past the Postal Reform Act, which is going to put the U.S. Post Office on a firm financial footing for the first time in many, many years. And there will not be cutbacks in service. As people probably know, the post office has been in bad shape. It's had cutbacks. It's not been handled very well by the Postmaster General who was installed during the Trump administration. And Carolyn is also going to keep pushing as hard as she can to make sure that their next generation of trucks are not going to be gasoline-powered, inefficient vehicles, but to be electric vehicles. I'd say those are probably the most important things to mention right now.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me speak. If there's any questions, I'll take them, or you can also go to our website, which I put in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oriana from Councilmember Caban's office.
Hi, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
So, good evening, Community Board 1. Happy Women's History Month. I just have a few events that I wanted to go through with you all. Our biggest and most important event that I wanted to let you know about is that this Saturday, March 19th, we will be having our open house and participatory budgeting expo. We are going to be celebrating the grand opening of our district office and host our first participatory budgeting exposition with a lot of information about the different plans. Please join us, spread the word, and you can sign up here for more information about the event. I'm just going to drop this link in the chat. About a different event that we already had this month, was the Acropolis Garden Tenants' Rights Workshop. We, alongside Woodside on the Move and Legal Aid's Queen Center, offered a tenants' rights workshop to the residents at Acropolis Gardens, who had been struggling with the fact that their gas has been shut off for over a month, as well as some persistent repair issues and a rat infestation. We're working alongside Assemblymember Zoran Mamdani and State Senator Jessica Ramos's offices to resolve these issues, and we will keep you up to date on our progress. But if anybody you are familiar with are dealing with persistent repair issues, especially building-wide, we are happy to bring in legal help as well as tenant organizing. So please reach out to our office. The council member this month also got a chance to tour the facility that houses non-traditional employment for women, also known as NEW, which trains women to be carpenters, electricians, ironworkers, etc. She was particularly excited by the fact that she could accompany council member Sandy Nurse on the tour, as she is a new graduate. And lastly, in terms of events, last week on March 11th, council member Kamban took a small business tour throughout the District 22 with the SBS commissioner, and just check up our website to see some of the spaces that we visited. In terms of updates, there is Urban Upbound is once again offering free tax assistance to Astoria houses. If you have any questions about this, here is some more information on the free tax assistance. And you can call this number and press 7 to get connected. I'll be dropping that in the chat. And then in terms of legislative updates, last month, the council member chaired her first hearing in Women and Gender Equity Committee. The committee explored the barriers to survivors of gender-based violence for those seeking services. She is also proud to have introduced a resolution alongside our city comptroller calling on Albany to do away with 421A tax break that subsidizes luxury development and builds very little affordable housing. She'll be joining the comptroller and housing advocates tomorrow morning on a rally in support of the legislation. And she's also partnered with other colleagues to 2 additional resolutions related to the Victims Compensation Fund for Survivors of Violence and the creation of a universal child care system in New York. As always, if you would like to hear more information from our office, here is the way to sign up to our mailing list. And again, just please check out our office. And if you have need of assistance, we now have an official location, and I'll put that information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariana. Thank you. Faraz Salam. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Okay. Good evening, all. I don't have many updates. Just to inform everyone that the council member is currently on maternity leave. And so we will be seeing less of her over the next month as she adjusts to life as a new mother. She recently gave birth on Friday, so that's exciting news. In the past month, we've done a district tour with the chair on the Committee for Transportation, Councilmember Salvina Brooks Powers, and we just want to let you all know that we're going to continue advocating for opening up the Southern Roadway. We also are continuing our outreach and district office tour. Our staff is out there informing communities who speak Spanish, Tibetan, Bangla, and Hindi and Urdu to understand that we're here for them. And this week we'll be visiting the Irish Center. We'll also be visiting Dutch Kills over the next month and other places within district to connect with constituents, as we understand sometimes it's difficult to come to the office. So we're going out and meeting constituents there. Last update is that the council member last week shared a letter regarding Innovation Queens. This letter was shared with the community board, but to highlight the key points, the council member is asking in support of the community that the following requirements be met before certification can be considered for this project, which includes robust outreach in person in multiple languages, and that there are in-person town halls and workshops in multiple languages, so that neighbors have a chance to express their concerns. That there is an environmental impact statement, and that information must be provided to the community board for the review, and meetings must be held to hear their concerns, and that a full neighborhood impact study must be completed, including a racial impact study. There needs to be an understanding of the impacts on long-term residents and immigrant communities, along with the small businesses on the Steinway corridor, and they must be made clear at the outset and must inform all future discussions on the project. And then, as always, you can reach our office via email or phone. And thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you. Kat from the Queensborough President's Office. Kat, can you hear us?
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. How are you? Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Go
good
ahead.
evening, everyone. My name is Kat Zapata, and I am the Transportation and Parks and Rec Policy Liaison for the Queensborough President, Donovan Richards. And then I will also be covering this community board. I'm extremely honored to be here and hear about all of your concerns, and then as well as any upcoming initiatives and projects going on. I also have a very brief, detailed things that our office is doing, given that I am fairly new to the job. We do have a Women's Month celebration coming up on March 18th at 6 p.m. It is a virtual event, so feel free to sign up through our Zoom update. What I would say is, given that there is a lot of transportation and parks and recreation initiatives sought out in your primarily district, please make sure to either email them to me if there's anything pressing, but also feel free to email them to your district manager, Florence, who has already been in contact with me. I will send everyone my email. It is, for now, it's kzapata, KZAPAT, at queensbp.org. You can also find it on the email, but I will also send this information to Florence, who can disseminate to the rest of the community board members. Thank you all for your time, and I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting you all in person sometime next meeting.
Thank you, Pat. Now we invite members of the public who wish to speak to please use the raise hand function. Are there any members of the public who, Neil Horton? Hey, Neil. Neil, go ahead, please.
You have 2 minutes.
Neil, you have to unmute.
Am I muted now? I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted now. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, it's good to be back after 2 years talking about participatory budgeting again. You've already had a little brief overview. There's some exciting projects that I hope we're going to be funding. One is for Hoyt's Playground. One is the repairs for Ditmar Steinway. We're going to have another tree planting session. And St. Michael's Playground is back in the list of things to do. And what I particularly want to say finally is, finally, Friends Group is going to be formed for St. Michael's Playground. We're in early discussions with it. A couple of members from Boulevard Gardens are really interested in setting up a Friends Group. And that's something I hope to talk about in more detail. And Tom, if you want to get behind this, our Friends Group and the community board, Tiffany Caban is behind this. We should have a super Friends Group starting up very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Is there anyone else from the public who wish to speak? Anyone?
Amin is up.
Amin, yes. I remember you wanted to speak. Ahead, Amin.
Good evening, everyone.
2 minutes.
I'm very concerned about the future generation, about our kids who is getting involved with the addiction. They're starting with the e-cigarette and then going beyond that. And it is happening in public school and private school. Already some of the youngsters died. I knew that. And they are not, so people are not talking about this matter. This is a very serious matter in our society, in our community. So I'm requesting all of our board member and our chair, Murray, please, let's start working on this issue. This is a very serious issue. We need to save our future generation. So how we can stand and how should we approach ourselves? We can start from community board 1 and all the community board can join on the city and everyone. Like we need to concern about this matter. We need to work on it. And I request everyone to involve with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Amin. Great point. Thank you. Shanaz, did you have your hand up? There you are.
Yes.
2 minutes.
Thank you. My question regarding 2 months ago, we asked to the Kansas City, Miss Stephanie, to come to tell us why she approved the Neptune Diner project. And we already asked, and one of her co-workers said they're going to come the following month, and we never hear back about this.
Well, I don't know that they said she would come the following month. What they did do is she sent her letter explaining her vote. Did you get a copy of that?
No.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it was sent to the entire board.
trying
but,
to check, okay.
Florence, can you resend it to?
Resend it either tonight or tomorrow, Marie. Sure.
Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
I have to dig it out. Sure.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Well, the letter's in the chat if that's helpful, Shanaz.
Okay,
Oh, thank you for expediting that.
thank you. Any other members want to speak? Of the public, anyone? Okay, I will entertain the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Tom Ryan.
Second,
Second, Dino Panagoulias.
thank you. Have a nice rest of the
Good
month.
night.
See you in
Good night.
April.
Bye.
Same to all. Take care. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Have a good night and happy Ramadan to Amin before Ramadan.
Happy Ramadan.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here.